24/7 on the internet.
All right, back in the clubhouse for episode 3 of Club Barnett.
Yes.
This one we're talking about, and you're gonna have to help me on this one because I'm not really familiar with Pat Todd. Ronnie talks about auditioning for Lazy Cowgirls, right? And it sounded like that audition didn't end up too favorably, right?
Didn't quite go his way. Pat Todd has been around for many years here in the LA scene.
Okay.
Came from back east, Midwest somewhere maybe, and came out this way with the Lazy Cowgirls and was around for many years. And to my surprise, because I didn't know this, Ronnie actually auditioned for the band at one point.
Yeah, that was news to me.
Yeah. Also, what's funny is I used to go see Pat Todd quite a bit in the clubs.
Okay.
That's later on when he had his band, the Rank Outsiders. And to this day, one of my favorite punk / country bands. I really think you'd like them if you check them out. Great songwriter. But anyways,
like cowpunk to me.
Yes, but almost not even punk sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, but check them out.
Sounds like right up my alley. And then we talk about the set lists. I don't know about you, Frank, but I have a collection of vinyl records over here, and some of my vinyl records, I keep mine in plastic sleeves. I have set lists in some of mine.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple Muffs set lists, and they're all in Ronnie's handwriting.
Right.
So we talk about that here.
Yes. And if anybody who's a fan of the Muffs, and it seems like an awful lot of fans have been the recipients of those set lists. You see them a lot online. Ronnie's the one. You can tell his handwriting as soon as you see it.
Yeah. And
so we're going to hear about that. That's a great little part of Club Barnett.
I think that's how I developed my act. Is I had to get attention somehow, so I became the kind of, Angus Young mixed with whatever, like, yeah. Just, because I don't know if you guys know this story. I again, going back to playing in high school, after my high school, and I joined another band after that initial band in high school, but after that I gave up playing and pursuing playing. I'm not that guy. I've never been that guy, like scour ads, look for people to play with. So I put down the bass and just thought, like, well, if something comes up, maybe I'll do it, and so cut to 6 years later or whenever, when I move out here, right before the Muffs, one of our favorite bands at the time, still one of my favorite bands, the Lazy Cowgirls, the rhythm section quit. Yeah, their rhythm section quit on tour, and I remember me and Kim were best friends with Melanie and her husband Larry at the time, and so I remember telling them, like, should I pick up the bass and try out for the Lazy Cowgirls? And everybody's like, you play bass? I'm like, I used to, yeah. I mean, so I got in touch with Pat Todd, and I basically had an audition for the Lazy Cowgirls over the course of like 2 months. First, it was like these like interviews over the phone, right? This is when I lived in Orange County when I moved out here. So, and Pat lives in the Valley. So Pat would be like, yeah, we practice 3 times a week and blah, 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 blah. All the way they did things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went through this rigorous interview process. And then I met Pat and Doug, the guitar player, at the Jack in the Box that's across from Amoeba in Hollywood, which I think is closed now, which is another, that makes me sad.
Yeah.
So much shit go down in that Jack in the Box. Yeah. Anyway, but that's where I met them. So I met them. We had this personal meeting and everything. That went well. Finally, it came down to me having the physical audition for the band. They gave me 5 songs to learn. Well, by this time, Melanie had left the Pandoras, and a month later, Kim had left the Pandoras. So Kim had a stockpile of songs and was ready to go. Let's form our own band. Well, by this time, I'm like auditioning for the Lazy Cowgirls. So I went and auditioned, and Lenny was there. Lenny, who was in the Creamers, and Lenny was like filling in the Cowgirls. I don't want to jump ahead. He ended up just being the bass player in the Cowgirls. But yeah, I auditioned. I thought I did good. I learned 5 songs. I stood there and played them. And then Pat called me and said, you know, we appreciate it, but we're going to keep looking. We want somebody that's going to bounce off the walls, which is funny because I became that guy. But I even in the Muffs, I'm not that guy at rehearsal. You know, I'm not, you know. But anyway, by that time we formed the Muffs, and it was fine. And I don't think I could have hacked the discipline of being in the Lazy Cowgirls anyway. But yeah, that got me to pick up the bass, and I didn't make it in the Lazy Cowgirls.
Oh man, I'm a huge Pat Todd fan.
Oh yeah, me too. The guy
with the Rank Outsiders and all that. That's a band that I've
Pat's
seen.
the real thing, man. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
I've seen them several times down in LA, and they can fill a club. Just man, that's one thing about that I've kind of grown over is those bands don't come on till 11 o'clock at night, man. I'm tired by that time, especially when you've had 3 and 4 other hardcore punk bands playing before that. You're worn out. It's physically just takes a toll. And that's just standing up in the balcony.
Don't get me started, Frank.
Oh,
I know this is, well, that's why people stop going out as much, right? As we get older, and you know, is it worth it to stand there all night to see one band? Right. You know, I don't, you know, and then the whole scene has changed. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I know I say that a lot. That I tend to bring up something like that's a whole nother podcast, but it is, it is, you know, like, but yeah, no, Pat, look, still, how that guy's been doing it for so long, and doing it himself, and he's the real deal, and true believer, and Pat's great. That was the cool thing about early Muffs when we formed. All these guys like that, like were our initial fans. Like we're like, you know, I like Pat, and like I remember Kid Spike from the Gears, and the Controllers, and Billy Bones from the Skulls. Like, I remember seeing them lurk around at a show, and then they come to me like introduce themselves, like we really like what you guys are doing. Like, you know, we got respect from those guys really quickly. It's quite amazing actually, because you know, we were talking to Warner Brothers 8 months after we started playing out. When we started playing out, like Kim tried to like keep the publishing deal she had signed on with the Pandoras, even though she didn't write songs, they all had to sign this thing, and they blew her off. They swept her under the rug. We started from scratch. I mean, and we really did it. You know, we started playing. We played our initial shows with our drummer Chris's friends that were like these psychobilly bands. Our first 5 shows were with this band Terror Train, and you know, it was just so organic. And we played these clubs. The clubs would want us back. You know, and we played just like the cliche. We'd play a Tuesday opening or mid bill, and then we just worked our way up. And by 8 months later, I mean, we were talking to Warner Brothers. We went to dinner with them. We didn't have anything on tape. We didn't have no lawyer, no nothing. And that's why when we signed to Warner Brothers, we had to actually make a demo. We got signed to a demo deal because we didn't have anything on tape. We had our initial like 2 singles that were just coming out or just about to come out. I don't think they'd even come out at that point. So yeah, it really is. I'm really proud of that fact, you know, because this is LA where bands have a lawyer. Well, now with the internet, whatever, they have an internet presence, and, you know, but you know, I remember talking about having t-shirts. I was like, and my whole thing was like, look, let's not have t-shirts. Like, if people want t-shirts, they'll still want them, but they can't get them, but they'll want them still. You get it? And they'd be like, no, we're going to have t-shirts.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Many of the set lists are written in your handwriting. So how did you guys come up with the set list? Was that something that you would come up with individually, or you'd run it by the other two, or it was whatever you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I would run it by people, and then I'd have to run it by Roy, because Roy, we got a lot of fast songs, and Roy, here's the thing, it's a little tricky, even though like some songs work, you figure out work best, going against each other. I mean, if you look at a set list, you'll see these lines, and generally it's 4 lines. There's like 4 songs a line, and on and on. And we would try to barrel through those. The line means break and talk or whatever. Invariably, you're gonna have a break for some breaking a string or whatever sometimes before. But we would try to barrel through those 4 songs like Ramon style. And yeah, you learned. I mean, there's only a certain amount of songs that are going to work as an opener. After that first break, it'd often be like Sad Tomorrow or a song like that, kind of a more poppy number. You try to hit them over the head at first.
Right.
You start with that fast song. Often we'd start with one of our 30-second fast songs. Straight into another one. The song 4 would there was a format of sorts, is what I'm trying to say. Song 4 would generally be a song like I Need You, or like in our later years, Take Me, like a song that we did stretch out on these songs. And we started doing that more and more as we went on. We'd break it down, and Kim would talk or dance or and then you crash back into it. So I ended up being the guy writing the set list because nobody else wanted to. That's how that started. And
good penmanship.
Yeah, and they learned to, well, they were able to read my handwriting. Yeah.
Right.
And then the way it would work out, like we would get kind of, as a set worked, it would kind of work that way for that stretch of the tour or these dates, right? We would try to change it up, and we would change. There are songs that would come and go with a set from night to night. But there were songs that we always played, Oh Nina, but there are songs you might think that we played every night, which we didn't. We didn't play Lucky Guy every night. But Lucky Guy worked. Lucky Guy was a good live song. So that was a good one at the beginning where, like I say, we do a 30-second song and then you go into that bop, 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 and straight into Lucky Guy. And I mean, again, you try to hit them over the head at first, and then you kind of work some pop stuff in there, and then another rock song after you've done a couple of those to bring them back. People like to rock live. I mean,
right.
So, that's why it doesn't happen a lot, but there are some people that like the punkier crowd that are didn't like our records as much because they're poppy and like, you guys are like so aggressive live. But they're kind of 2 different animals in a way.
We don't like to come on stage like we're a big deal. We don't like to go, ta-da, here we are. We like to set up our shit for hours.
You guys hear that we like ice or something? Are you throwing ice already?
Oh, don't start trouble until it's absolutely necessary.